Shalom, friends. How's it going? Welcome to this episode of the Watchdog, exclusively on the Synagogue News. I am your host, CJ Cox, here to tell you that we are living in biblical times. Real quick before we get started, I just want to let everybody know this is the first upload of the Watchdog podcast on this new YouTube channel. So for those of you who are not aware, we recently actually moved this from the Synagogue YouTube channel to this new, the Synagogue News YouTube channel. The reason being that we figured that what the synagogue is being used for, namely Christian apologetics, is separate enough from news and politics and things of that nature that the two should actually be on their own separate channels. So that's why this podcast is on its own channel. And so just want to let you guys all know about that. If you are interested in helping this new channel grow up to get back to that old particular, what would you say, threshold, I guess, right? Where we were getting roughly 40, 50 views per episode of the Watchdog, please do consider liking and sharing this video, as well as hitting that subscribe button. And of course, getting this out to all the different social media accounts you frequent. What good is a message without an audience to hear it, as I frequently say? I do see real quick in our YouTube live chat, Hate Love Nothing, Slam RN, and Honesty Angel, all three of which are actually from the previous channel, which is very awesome to see. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the fact that people are actually supporting me on both ends. That makes me very happy in the heart. So I appreciate that tremendously. And I just want to say real briefly, in light of our typical pre-article discussions that we usually have on this show, I'd like to right now just let everybody know a little bit about what's going to happen going forward. And so in the future, we'll be doing those, obviously, pre-article discussions. But right now, I would just like to discuss a couple brief things about the Watchdog itself. So first thing, I'm going to remove myself very quick to show you guys something. All right, so that is the new Watchdog logo. It's obviously very similar to the old Watchdog logo in that it's the dog with the Rorschach motif and the the yellow circle behind him. It's been changed a little bit, obviously, to give it higher quality, as well as to change the breed of the dog from a bulldog to a Great Pyrenees, because a Great Pyrenees is a sheepdog, and sheepdogs not only are watchdogs, but also does sort of reflect the fact that this is, while a news channel, it is a Christian news channel, right? I am very influenced by my faith in this regard. So, just wanted to let you guys know about that. If you guys are, like that sort of thing, that's actually from a good friend of mine, Jamie Russell, if you know who he is. So definitely want to give credit where credit is due. Also, we're going to be posting every other day. So we do these Watchdogs Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So every other day, meaning that Tuesday and Thursday, we're going to post political debates I had over on Modern Day Debate, in one instance with John Maddox, on this channel to try and get more growth, right? To try and get this channel up to, because, it's, obviously only at 14 at the moment. But that's because it's brand new, right? I just recently separated the two, but we want to get it back up to, if not the 300 that I'm currently at, 390 that I'm currently at on the other channel, at least something similar, right? It doesn't look like this was ever as liked or watched as the apologetics work. That's actually part of the rationale for separating it. But nonetheless, we definitely want to try and do that. So we're going to, if you guys are interested in those sorts of things, Tuesdays, Thursdays, for the foreseeable future, we'll be posting old reruns of debates. By the way, I see two comments here from Slam I want to address. So this one is this Shlomo Yehudah Rechnitz. I don't believe that Rechnitz and Barry are the same person. And so this one is actually Barry, spelled Beeri, the one who was recently said to be the Messiah. If that's the same person as Rechnitz, then yes, and I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, actually, but nonetheless. But my understanding is that Shlomo Yehudah Rechnitz is actually is a separate person from this rabbi, a business investor of some kind. But nonetheless, wanted to address that real quick. And then, so you said that you had hardly seen it. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and drop out again and let you guys just look at that real quick, just because I want to give some love to Jamie Russell for drawing an absolutely awesome picture. So as you can see, it's kind of like the Watchdog motif still, right? It's got the Great Pyrenees because that's a sheepdog. It's got the Rorschach motif because that's obviously a reference to Watchmen. The circle in the back is like a spotlight, like a watchman from a tower. And eventually here real soon, I'm going to actually get an intro where we have a little bit of animation and it kind of falls like a button and all that. And I won't spoil what that is because I think it's going to be really cool. I was originally going to have it before I ever went back up and did these Watchdogs again. However, it's now been over a month because we were waiting on getting the channel set up, and then we were waiting on the logo itself, right? And so there was a lot of stuff to be waiting on. It took way longer than I actually thought, which is my own fault because I was just way undershooting it. And so I just decided, we'll wait on the most complicated of those three things, which is actually creating an animated intro, but we're going to get one of those here soon, as well as some other cool animated stuff that's going to make this a lot more interactive because this is a news show, right? I want this one to be, obviously informative, educational, all those kinds of things like Unapologetics is, but it is also something that needs to, kind of catch your attention a little bit, have the slight little bit of entertainment that you have in news podcasts, things like, think Ben Shapiro show, think Allie Beth Stuckey show, things like that, Matt Walsh, right? It's not like it's a cartoon, right? It's not, or even Steven Crowder for that matter, because he's a comedian, but it is interactive so that people actually, care about what's going on the screen. So that's a bunch of stuff that we're going to be doing. And without further ado, we have some pretty interesting topics to get into today. So let's go ahead and do that. The topic for today, some may have heard of, some may not. I assume that in the population of people who would be watching this video, it is more likely you've heard about this than not. However, I'm going to explain this as if you had not heard about it, just in case. So there was a large, I guess, ruckus, you could say, right? I mean, it wasn't really like huge news or earth-shattering news or anything like that as far as being on CNN or Fox or anything like that, right? Excuse me. But amongst a lot of evangelical circles and Orthodox circles, obviously with each of the two having different opinions on the matter, but nonetheless, there's been a lot of talk about this Rabbi Shlomo Yehudah Berry, which is Beeri, being the new announced Messiah, basically, right? Being this person who the Jews have said is going to be, the son of David, warrior Messiah, and one of two that they're expecting, because modern Orthodox Jews actually expect there to be a son of David Messiah and a son of Joseph Messiah. Fun fact, this is actually because there are quote unquote contradictory messianic prophecies about how the Messiah arrives and also what he is to accomplish. I say quote unquote contradictory because Christianity actually provides the explanation. There is more than one coming, specifically too. But nonetheless, this is obviously not a theology program. So a lot of talk about this. And it's all centered around a video that came out on March 27th of this year, where a bunch of Orthodox Jews and rabbis were surrounding this person, this Rabbi Shlomo Yehudah, right? And kissing his hand and, kissing his, like a ring sort of thing, it looks like. I think it's a signet of some kind. And, bowing to him and everybody's going crazy and they want to meet him and they want to see him. And it just so happens that March 27th is the very last day of Passover. And I believe it was also Easter, if I'm not mistaken. And so a lot of people are kind of freaking out about this, right? Saying, is this person been declared the Messiah? Is this some new person we need to be watching out for? So on and so forth, yada, yada. And there is interesting things that definitely need to be addressed. I don't know that I would go as far as to say that this person is like a potential antichrist figure, right? Because, and I'll just spoil something for you guys real quick, the claims that he has been declared the Messiah don't seem to have any grounding so far, right? In other words, there has not been a single, excuse me, there's not been a single confirmed report of him being declared the Messiah or a messianic figure or a prophet or something along those lines, right? However, there are some oddities that certainly need to be addressed, that certainly need to be looked into, and that's what this particular program is going to be about today. Things that I think are worthy of note, even if this person turns out to be a literal nothing burger. So this is sort of a two-pronged program in that sense. On one end, I want to sort of dissuade people from the idea that this man actually is the Jewish Messiah or the claimed Jewish Messiah, right? Because obviously, as Christians, we believe that Jesus was the Jewish Messiah, but I digress. I want to dissuade people kind of from that and say, don't put too much stock in this news story. It appears it may potentially be inaccurate. But I also want to kind of forewarn people of some of the spirits, if you will, that are surrounding this man and also just Israel as a whole, right? Things that are going down in Israel that are incredibly interesting. Excuse me. And by the way, Wednesday's episode is going to be on a similar note. Today's episode is focused primarily on this rabbi. Wednesday's episode, I want to focus a lot more on the temple. And then on Friday's episode, we already have this planned out. So unfortunately, if there's big news this week, I won't be getting to it. But nonetheless, on Friday, I want to talk a lot about the elections in Israel. So Israeli themed week this week, right? But nonetheless, let's go ahead and share the screen here so we can get to some of the articles, right? So the rabbi here, he's been being called a name that I cannot actually get confirmed in any official sources. That is Yizkiyahu ben David. I've heard a lot of people on conspiracy theory websites and end of the world websites say that this is his name. I have not heard anybody who's associated with him or operates in the official capacity who has said that this is his name. So that is something to note right off the bat. But nonetheless, this is unfortunately the most accurate and detailed article I could find on the matter. I say unfortunately because, as you guys are well aware, I like to use official sources simply because I understand that a lot of this stuff is what's the word? It sounds conspiratorial, right? It sounds very imaginative. It sounds very much like something that you might hear from www.theilluminaticontrolsnickiminaj.com, right? Or something like that. And so because of the fact that our topics tend to sound like it's veering into that territory, I like to use official sources to try and prove to you guys that it is not, in fact, in that territory. Unfortunately, official sources are just not reporting on this matter. So, not going to be able to find official sources in regards to Rabbi Yehudah himself. So just be forewarned on that. I apologize, but nonetheless, that is the way that it is going to have to be. So this is from actually a blog. I have checked into the blog. It is basically a conspiracy theory and Bible blog. On this particular article, it seems to be addressing the reasons why people think that this man who is called the Yanuka, which means basically a child prodigy, why some people believe this man is this Jewish Messiah claimant, right? And so I want to go through these really quick to, or go through this article really quick to kind of give you guys an idea as to what people are saying. And some of the stuff you may have already read, right? The reason I'm addressing this is because in circles that people like us happen to frequent, this is becoming a popular topic, right? So if you've heard it, then of course, you're already going to know some of this and it'll be a recap for you. But nonetheless, is the Yanuka Rav Shlomo Yehudah Berry the Jews awaited Messiah? Short answer, no, but ... And that is the title. This is published on April 6th, so a little under a month ago. And we're going to be starting right here. I don't think you guys will actually be able to read it. It seems like it's a little bit too small there. So let me go ahead and blow it up. All right. The video below is going around. We'll watch that in a second, by the way. It most certainly is interesting in light of the Kaduri and Persimmon the Kaduri and Persimmon prophecies, and because of the Israeli rabbi who said he's already holding meetings with Messiah. We're going to get to those in a moment. But this cannot be fully confirmed that they announced him as such. So this person is saying the same thing that I've told you, that there is a lot of interesting talk, but it's not something that can be confirmed, right? If they did, he would not be the true Messiah, and if he were the Antichrist, then they would not announce this outwardly until after the rapture. That is the opinions of the blogger. I don't know that I agree, but it's not what we're getting into today. But they may announce it within their ranks and wait later for worldly announcement. Also, he would be one of two messiahs that they are waiting on. More about that below. Sorry, I apologize. I'm doing a terrible job reading this. Also, it was said that he is part Jewish and part Muslim in heritage, but I can't find anything to back that up just yet. And I have also tried to look into that. Dr. Michael Brown has also tried to look into that. I have not found anything confirming it. Dr. Michael Brown has said he found things that explicitly deny it. In other words, that his parents are known and that their lineage is in no way linked to Arabs or Muslims. Nonetheless, in any event, this is something to keep an eye on in the coming weeks, just to see what, if anything, comes about. And then it goes on with this video here, and we're going to go ahead and watch this video real quick because I think it's interesting for you guys to understand what caused all of this, talk in the first place. So let's go ahead and click on that here real quick.
Is the video of this is the 27th here. I
just want to make sure if I don't know if the audio is actually working here at the moment. Yeah, it is. Okay, awesome. Where were we just at? Right here. Okay, sorry about that, friends.
Do believe, I'm almost positive this is the 27th. This is at the Wailing Wall. This is that Josiah ben David that they're claiming is Israel's new Messiah. This is
so. I'll restart it so that you guys can hear the whole thing in its own context. But you just heard that name, right? That he says Josiah. It's in obviously Hebrew it would be Yizkiyahu ben David. That is what they are calling him in these circles where they're saying he's the claimed Messiah. Whether that be Christian or Orthodox Jewish circles, they're calling him Yizkiyahu ben David. There is not any record at this point in time of Rav Shlomo Yehudah Berry, actually, or Yehudah Berry, excuse me, not Yehudi. There's no record of him being called Yizkiyahu ben David by any official sources or anybody operating in an official capacity or anybody who is actually close to him. So I just want to note that for you guys so that you understand there is, even though there are weird things that we want to focus on today, there is a lot of mistruth or at least unconfirmed stories that is floating about here, right? So just note that, and let's go ahead and press play.
Hey guys, Electron 101, and here is the video of this is the 27th here, I do believe. I'm almost positive this is the 27th. This is at the Wailing Wall. This is that Josiah ben David that they're claiming is Israel's new Messiah. This is really crazy. You can see here they're like pushing on this guy like he is somebody super duper important. Look at this. And they're like crowding him. People are going crazy around this guy. And this is only in Spanish. I have not found this at all in English. This is all in Spanish. This is at the Wailing Wall here. There he is at the Wailing Wall. He's here praying. Everyone's surrounding him. They're saying that this is the Josiah ben David, their Messiah. This is at the Wailing Wall. This is unheard of. This is what people that know anything about Israel was going on. And this is this guy right here. This guy right here.
Now, real important, we do need to note when he says this is unheard of, that's not 100% true. Okay. That's not 100% true. First off, even if this person is actually claimed to be the Messiah, that would still not be unique to this person. In other words, the Jews have put forward many people, certain Jews, I should say, because obviously none of these people has been accepted by the nation as a whole, have put forward many people who have claimed to be the Messiah. Rabbi Schneerson is one who died just in the 90s, right? Rabbi Shimon Bar Kokhba, one who led a revolt against the Roman Empire in the 130s AD, right? So 130. It's actually roughly 132 to 135. And those are just two that, come to me off the top of my head. But I'm sure there's many others if I were to sit here and think about it or have the time to just look through it all. The point being, though, that even if he is claimed to be the Messiah, that isn't actually a 100% unique thing. It's a concerning thing, certainly. It means that there's certainly a certain level of trepidation that should be had, of concern that should be had, absolutely. However, it does not indicate actually any level of uniqueness about this person, right? There has been numerous false Messiah claimants in the past, and if this person turns out not to be a big player, there will probably be more to come in the future. However, it is still worthy of note, right? It is still worthy of note. The reason it's still worthy of note is because very often these false Messiah claimants can end up being major players in our religious lives and geopolitical lives. Obviously, Bar Kokhba was a very long time ago, but that man actually caused one of the bloodiest revolution on record up until that point in time. Some 100,000 Jews who fought with him died, not including the Jews he slaughtered for not being Orthodox enough, for not following him as Messiah, or for being Christian. And that doesn't include the Romans slaughtered either, right? It's a very, very brutal conflict. And in fact, the Romans who had dispersed the Jews from Jerusalem after 70 had decided at that point they needed to disperse the Jews from Israel in total, right? And so that's why you ended up having so many Jews fleeing all across the world and remaining virtually none in Israel, right? Obviously, they had already been barred from going into Jerusalem and exiled from Jerusalem. But now after the Simon Bar Kokhba revolt, they were like, no, we're going to exile you from Israel in total. Like, we're done with you. You guys have way too much of an attachment to this land. It's a religious attachment. And the only way that we're actually going to conquer this is if y'all leave. And so they did. They kicked them out, right? So obviously that was a huge deal. In the case of Schneerson, right, who's very recent, he is the rabbi, the one of the main rabbis whose thought is quoted in modern Chabad, which a lot of people are concerned with because of things like Noahide laws and things of that nature, which I don't necessarily think that Noahide laws are that big of a deal. I think it's a little bit of a nothing burger, but nonetheless, you can see his influence then, right, bleeding into pretty major situations like, this Chabad movement. And of course, this person or this event does indicate a certain level of, dare I say, spirit in Israel, right? Where they kind of want this figure. They're looking to this figure. People always talk about there was Messianic fervor before Christ arrived, where there was a ton of apocalyptic prophets and things of that nature. And there's some truth to that, right? There was just in the Bible, we have recorded Theudas and Simon, or Judah, who is revolting after the census, and John the Baptist and Jesus himself and Simon Magnus, and so on and so forth, right? And that's just in the scripture by itself. There's tons of other figures outside of the scripture. I just referenced Shimon Bar Kokhba, right? The Maccabees were considered kind of apocalyptic in a way. So there was a Messianic fervor and apocalyptic fervor in this 200-year span from the Maccabean revolt to the destruction of Jerusalem, and even a little bit beyond that to the Simon Bar Kokhba revolt, right? That is happening again in Israel. That fervor has returned. And will that fervor actually, become something that manifests quickly? In other words, are we going to see a Messiah claimant put forward who has a lot of political power and religious sway in a relatively, what would be the word there? I don't know. Just something that's going to happen soon. There's a word that's fleeting my mind at the moment. But will it be happening soon is the point I'm trying to get at, right? Or is it going to be like last time where it starts in like 168, 167 BC and really doesn't end until like 135 AD, which is 300 years just about, right? Who knows? But the point is, the fervor's there, the spirit's there, the people are expecting their Messiah to come. And of course, there's an obvious reason for this. People are wanting to rebuild the second temple at this moment. The red heifer has already been sacrificed. The Levite priesthood has already been reestablished. In fact, I frequently said on this program, though it would be on episodes that are currently still on the Synagogue channel, that I believe that Yehudah Glick, who wants to run for president this year, in fact, in about 2 months, 1 month or 2 months, I don't know if it's June or July, but nonetheless, Yehudah Glick wants to run for president of Israel, right? If he wins, his biggest thing, his claim to fame, is wanting to rebuild the temple and have it as a prayer house for all nations, right? What's the point? The point is, and I think he'll win, by the way. I just my own personal inkling. Who knows? Not going to put any sort of huge stock in that, but I think he's going to win. The point is that there is a lot of reason for this fervor. I mean, the existence of Israel itself is reason for this fervor, right? Having established a state after that state being effectively eliminated after the Hasmonean dynasty was removed, and having an exile from the city of Jerusalem since 70 and from the land itself since 135, right? So even just that by itself is a huge deal. But my point is, you can see why this fervor exists, why this spirit is going around and infecting people in the nation of Israel. And it's something that we as Christians, I think, need to be aware of, and even just as wise people need to be aware of, because obviously, if somebody actually manages to establish this United Nations of Religions that I keep harping on, which I think the Pope will end up establishing it, that person is either going to have endorsement from or be considered the head of Israel. And who better to be a head of Israel than a Messianic figure, right? In fact, if the Jews expect 2 messiahs, that could even lead us to a situation I have not even considered yet, which is that you have a potential Jewish rabbi antichrist and Pope antichrist. I don't know. I've never thought about that before. I've often focused on the Pope, but recently looking into this idea of them expecting a Messiah son of David and a Messiah son of Joseph. I don't know. It's interesting to me, right? Nonetheless, though, I want to get back to the video so that we can actually finish it and potentially get on to some other articles here.
Hang on a second. Why is it this topic? It's being a pain here. Here we go. Hang on. Let me see here. Sorry about that. This guy right here is a head rabbi right here. For him to be here, this guy's 30 years old. For this rabbi to be here, to say that this is okay, is unheard of. This is wild. At the Wailing Wall, with all of these students, all these people here, and this rabbi and these other rabbis in here, they represent hundreds of thousands of people. In some cases, millions of people, because their organizations are massive, and they've produced literally millions of students through the years. And for this head rabbi right here to let this guy pray at this very special place, this is where the rabbi comes in, and this is where they preach, they talk, they do all their stuff, is right here at this desk at the Wailing Wall, right here. For that rabbi to be doing that, sitting there, letting this guy do this is really it's unbelievable.
And there's truth to that, and there's also an asterisk that needs to be said. There's truth in that you can see it for yourself. It's on the screen, right? There is obviously something very special about this person, this Shlomo Yehudah, right? And the Jewish people, specifically Orthodox, including high-ranking rabbis like the dude with the funny hat, right? I don't mean to be rude, but I don't know his name, so that's what I got to call him, right? They seem to be taking him very seriously. They seem to have a level of reverence for him. Now, the asterisk here is that there has been an explanation given by some. Whether or not you buy it is up to your own personal reasoning. However, they have said that basically this person was considered to be, as the word says here, Yanuka, as this article says, right, or a child prodigy. And since he is now being introduced or coming out to the greater world, people are just excited about him. Much the same way you might be excited about a number one overall draft pick in baseball who played in the minor leagues for a year or two, and he's finally entering the league, right? And that's not, in my opinion, an unfair explanation. That doesn't necessarily mean it's right, but it does make sense. It passes the sniff test, in other words. Obviously, you can't base everything on whether or not a sniff test is passed, but again, you do see there is a level of, there's stuff we need to be concerned of, absolutely. There's this Messianic fervor, there's this infatuation with this person, there's this, seeming movement, the greater movement growing at the Western Wall, right, about the temple and all that kind of stuff. But there's also some misinformation here, or at least some information that can be easily explained. And so we just got to be diligent in figuring out what exactly is worthy of note and what exactly is false information. But nonetheless, let's go back to the video.
Look at all the people lined up to try to get in here. I know there's a lot of critics saying that this guy is, not the guy, all this kind of stuff. But this guy, this is the 27th. This is Passover. This guy is fulfilling the Kaduri prophecies. I read the Kaduri prophecies and
oh, by the way, I said something incorrect earlier. Actually, the 27th was not the last day of Passover and therefore Easter. It was the first day of Passover. So it was the high Sabbath. So my apologies on that. That was my mistake. But the March 27th is actually the 14th of Nisan. So that would be the first day of Passover. But nonetheless,
Shoshone prophecy and other guy's prophecy in the previous video. And look at these rabbis right here. These are leading rabbis kissing this guy's hand. Look at this guy. He's leaning right here. These guys are kissing this 30-year-old guy's hand at the Wailing Wall at this desk right here. This is unheard of. This guy, it's a humongous possibility that this guy is their Messiah, the false.
See, now, and this is another one where we got to, once again, differentiate between what is worthy of note here and what is kind of a little bit too far. It is true, this is an incredibly young person who has an incredibly obscure background, who is being paid a lot of reverence and respect by incredibly respected elders in the Orthodox faith, right? That's an absolute fact. They're over here kissing his hand. They're over here trying to meet him. Oh, can I just get a chance to shake your hand? All that kind of stuff, right? And so this person, Yehudah, not Yehudah, Shlomo Yehudah Berry, or just Shlomo Yehudah, he is important. He's worthy of note. We should focus a little bit on him to see what's this guy about, right? However, that doesn't mean this is a completely unheard of thing that's never occurred and that this person is automatically going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread in the Jewish mind, or what we might consider a Messiah claimant, right? He's popular, absolutely. There's a lot of respect and reverence being paid to him, absolutely. I think that we should be suspicious of it because of that. I just don't think it is safe for us to jump to, this is happening, therefore, it must be this person, because it has happened before is the reality of it, right? There has been, not just in Messiah claimants, but just rabbis who have been incredibly popular, who have come out from a long hiatus or from, just recently leaving a yeshiva or something along those lines. And people say, oh, this person is really awesome and I want to go meet this person. And then people start following this person in their ministry and stuff like that. It's happened before, right? So worthy of note, yes. Bona fide evidence that this person is a Messiah claimant? Absolutely not. Unheard of? Absolutely not, right? And we do need to kind of eat the meat here and spit out the bones, right? Because unfortunately, people choke on bones. I hope you get the analogy.
The false Messiah, the Antichrist. And look at all these rabbis coming here to kiss his hand. This is unheard of. Look at this. This is crazy. This is really, really wild. And the people are treating him like he is their Messiah. Look at them crowding around him. Look at this. This is unbelievable. Fulfilling Kaduri's prophecy, Shoshoni's prophecy on its day. So, all right, guys, I want to get this out there. Just please spread this. Please subscribe and like. Please. All right. Please. So, please.
He mentioned two quote unquote prophecies there. I say quote unquote because I don't know that I believe them, right? Nonetheless, we are going to go ahead and let you know what those are. So, real quick, leaving that particular portion here, Israeli rabbi predicted in the 90s the arrival of Messiah on Rosh Hashanah, September 2019. People are saying that this is one of these correct prophecies. Now, you may be wondering, but September of 2019. Well, to an extent, that's kind of part of my point, right? I don't think that this is necessarily a legit prophecy, right? I don't think that, and not even necessarily, I just don't think it is, right? It's just straightforwardly. But nonetheless, this is what people are associating with this rabbi. So let's go ahead and read it. Amongst the many other events that have taken place this year all over the world, pointing to the return of Jesus for his church, this is again the opinions of the person writing, a stunning revelation has taken place in Israel. And by the way, I'm not saying that I necessarily disagree with that. I'm just saying I don't know this person's reasoning for that. So I want to point out that it is their opinion. Rabbi Yitzhak Kaduri predicted in a manuscript from the 90s that during the Israeli election of 2019, there would be an impasse in the election, causing Israel to be without a government for an extended period of time. And then this is what he allegedly said. Quote, on the eve of the year 5780, the upcoming Hebrew year, it's currently 5781, by the way, the year of corrections, there will not be a government in Israel for an extended period, and the various camps will be in quarrel, without a decision on either side, which, to be fair, that actually happened. And then on Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year itself, they will fight in heaven, the holy side against the side of evil, and God and his entourage will decide between them. And this is all I can say. And from here, I swore not to reveal the more secrets and hidden things. So it appears that he did actually, if this is true, accurately predict that there would be a split of the government in 2019, which according to his calendar would be 5780. This is another portion of it. He says, there will come on that day two ministers that win the government in the land of Israel. Both their names will be Benny Gantz, Benjamin Netanyahu, and neither of them will succeed in establishing their government or kingship. And this appears to be mostly true, except for the fact that actually, I would argue Benjamin Netanyahu absolutely did establish his government. In fact, he's managed to keep Benny Gantz from ever actually having power as prime minister, and kept himself consistently as the prime minister throughout all of this turmoil. So there's definitely, but again, I don't think this is an accurate prophecy. I'm just letting you guys know what is the prophecy that these people are applying to Shlomo Yehudah, right? And so it says after here, perhaps more stunning, Rabbi Kaduri quoted from the ancient book, The Covenant of the Covenant. I can read, I promise. The Covenant of the Persimmon, or Persimmon, however you say that, by Kabbalist Rabbi Sasson Hai Shoshani, known as the Prophet of Egypt. Shoshani said the Messiah would arrive during Rosh Hashanah, September 29th, October 1st, 2019. Of course, that didn't happen, but again, this is what they are applying to Yehudah. On that day, know and understand that King Messiah already stands at the doorway, and on the Sabbath afterwards, he will come and be revealed. Understand this and remember it. Apparently, Rosh in Israel has many manuscripts by Rabbi Kaduri, quote, with the names of God and similar things that we are keeping in a safe, These are things that are passed from generation to generation in secret only between the Kabbalists, and it is forbidden to reveal them. Okay, so this is, and by the way, we'll have links provided in the description to all of this so that you guys can read for yourself the whole thing. But this is these are the prophecies, quote unquote, that they are saying apply to this Shlomo Yehudah character. Obviously, you can see the problems, right? Benjamin Netanyahu did successfully establish his prime ministership. Also, it's 2 years after, 1.5 years technically, maybe a little bit over 1.5 years, I guess, but nonetheless, this event was supposed to occur, all that sort of stuff. But the point isn't why it's wrong. The point is this is what people are applying to this new rabbi figure, right? And they're also applying something here from Sanhedrin 98. Here, let me Control F real quick. Yeah, there we go. This prophecy alleged right here. And we'll start on the portion above. Rabbi Yosai ben Kisma's students asked him, when will the son of David come? Meaning the son of David as far as the Messiah, right? Rabbi Yosai ben Kisma said, I am hesitant to answer you lest you request from me a sign to corroborate my statement. They said to him, we are not asking you for a sign. Rabbi Yosai ben Kisma said to them, you will see when this existing gate of Rome falls and will be rebuilt, and will fall a second time and will be rebuilt, and will fall a third time. They will not manage to rebuild it until the son of David comes, meaning this third time. The students said to him, our rabbi, give us a sign. Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma said to them, but didn't you say to me that you are not asking me for a sign? And that's another prophecy that they are, or alleged prophecy, that they are saying applies to this rabbi. So just to give you guys context here, right? Some things of interest to bear in mind. First, they are expecting, they being the Orthodox Jews, are expecting 2 messiahs. Jesus fulfills this, but they ignore God's full word and turn to tradition of men, blah, 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 blah. I agree with that. It's just not the important portion here. So we're moving on through it. They are expecting a religious messiah and a warrior messiah who would run the government. Also, this is Jewish mysticism, and the very people who study, believe, and follow it fall under the same category as the Pharisees. Sort of. That's a little bit of a misleading statement. Pharisees are technically more in line with what we would consider just rabbinic Orthodox Jews. Not all rabbinic Orthodox Jews are Kabbalists. Although, there's certainly a lot of them who are, but I just want to point that out. Anyways, those who Jesus addressed as being deceivers and of their fathers the devil, which the modern Orthodox Jewish descends from, the modern Orthodox Jewish rabbis descend from the Pharisees, just so you know. That much is true. Calling this man Yanuka, an Arabic word meaning child prodigy, often used to describe very young and very bright Talmudic scholars, is interesting in that Jewish mysticism views it this way, as written about in the paper right below. Here are a few snips out of the paper I found addressing the Yanuka and Jewish mysticism, and it shows how much they mix up Christianity. It would certainly cause confusion if they did end up naming the current Yehudah Yanuka Shlomo Messiah for those who are left behind, which of course not the topic, right? Not rapture. So just kind of skipping past that stuff. Nonetheless, the quote here, and he does actually source this. So this is from God and His Son, Christian Affinities in the Shaping of the Sava and Yanuka Figures in the Zohar by J.M. Banarach, published 2017. Quote, as mentioned above, the Zoharic Yanuka figure is tightly entwined with the concept of the Son of God, personified in the character of a young child and youth. The discursive and symbolic fields in which the Yanuka operates make it likely that this child is meant to evoke, and in various ways, the figure of Jesus. Allusion to Jesus in the Yanukand, I'm probably saying this wrong, Yanuka and Sava stories appear mainly in the Yanuka's mythopoeic, however you say these words, I don't know, I'm sorry, homilies, in which Yanuka refers to himself as the divine son. I propose that the verse that appear in the mythopoeic homilies are connected to traditions found in medieval anti-Christian polemic works. The Yanuka's mythopoeic homilies and their importance in the portrayal as the Son of God were discussed at length above. My focus here will be on those verses that allude to medieval polemic traditions. It goes on, and again, you will actually have links in the description there below. But you get the idea, right? You get the idea. Yanuka is a loaded term, and there is a lot of people saying that there is prophecy surrounding these people, even though the prophecy is very obviously failed, even though the prophecy is very obviously not true. People are seemingly applying this prophecy to this rabbi, right? Which, to be fair, if this person was a Messiah claimant and therefore a false Messiah, I guess it would certainly make sense for false prophecies to be applied to them, right? How long have I been going? 46 minutes? Perfect. Still have time. Nonetheless, though, there is some other context that we do need to discuss that makes this kind of stuff interesting. So, for example, now this is from 2020, October, actually. But it was still very important, and it's still something that's kind of interesting, especially if it turns out that this person was talking about Rabbi Shlomo. Excuse me, Yehudah. His first name is Shlomo. Anyways, Israeli rabbi said he's already holding meetings with Messiah. A snapshot of Israel's spiritual hunger, as biggest rabbis are afraid to leave the country lest they miss Messiah's coming. And we actually talked a little bit about this on Watchdogs that are on the synagogue, which, by the way, we'll get those in some way moved over to this channel. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to happen, but we'll get it done in some way. But nonetheless, we did talk about this a little bit at the time, kind of ignoring it in that I thought it was kind of a nothing burger. And it turns out that was my bad. A recent interview on Israeli radio again featured prominent rabbis explaining that the Messiah is just about to reveal himself. Rabbi Yaakov Zishultz told religious broadcaster Radio 2000 that Rabbi Chaim, I don't know if that's a typo or not. I think it is because he says rabbi twice here. Anyways, Chaim Kanevsky recently told him that he, Kanevsky, is already in direct contact with the Messiah. To understand why religious Jews are taking this seriously, it's important to know that Rabbi Chaim Kanevsky is considered to be one of the top 2 or 3 rabbis of the ultra-Orthodox community in Israel. As Rabbi Schultz says, that Kanevsky and others of the mystical concealed rabbis have now tasked him with informing the public of the Messiah's imminent arrival. And notice you have this concealed rabbis thing again, right? This whole Kabbalistic thing. By the way, I started that sentence with as. It's actually and, nonetheless. Rabbi Schultz began his explosive 3-hour interview with a warning, quote, "The process of redemption is about to start happening very quickly and at a fast pace. It is important that people remain calm and steady to act properly in the right time. There is a potential Messiah in every generation, and there are righteous men who know precisely who it is. This is, of course, true in this generation. Getting the word out now that the Messiah is closer than ever is a matter of life and death. Haven't you heard of Gog and Magog? That is what is going to happen very soon. Right now, the situation is explosive more than you can possibly imagine. Everyone needs to know whether they are on the inside or if they are going to be left out," end quote. Interestingly, very Christian-sounding language there, right? Excuse me, just getting drinks some coffee. He went on to reiterate, a number of signs of which prominent rabbis have taken note and that they firmly believe to be evidence of the coming Messiah. Quote, Rabbi Dov Cook, as everyone knows, is a very righteous man. He is one of the greatest men of our generation, and 10 years ago, when Israel was suffering from a horrible drought, someone asked Rabbi Cook, when the Sea of Galilee would again be full, recounted Rabbi Zishultz. Quote, Rabbi Cook responded that when the Messiah arrives, the Sea of Galilee will be full. In a few weeks, the Sea of Galilee will be full for the first time since Rabbi Cook made this statement. And that would have occurred in about November of 2020, not quite a year ago, about half a year ago, actually. Another righteous rabbi said that according to the current situation in heaven, there will not be Israeli elections. Rather, there will be a war, end quote, cautions the Schultz. Quote, if the elections do take place, it's pointless since it will end like the other elections. No government will come out of it. No one will take the government away from Netanyahu, end quote. Now, this so far has actually ended up being half true in that no solid unity has been established since these events started occurring in 2019. Netanyahu has retained power, But notice the rabbi said that Netanyahu would retain power because that's not the same thing as having unity government, right? They're now on, I think, their 5th election in 2 years. It might even be 6th. I'll have to go ahead and count again. And when we do the episode on Israeli elections, we'll actually have the exact number there for you. But, it's just constant Netanyahu seemingly biding his time, not forming any sort of a unity government, but keeping himself in power and not actually liable to some of these fraud charges and things of that nature. Obviously, where there doesn't appear to be truth is that there is no war. Also, it is not in any way confirmed that this person is talking about Rabbi Shlomo Yehudah, right? He might be, but he didn't say that. Nobody's linked the two. It's just something that is interesting and worthy of note. It's something that bare minimum does show that people are expecting in Israel, specifically Orthodox, a Messiah soon, right? We have this Messianic religious fervor. It might be Rabbi Yehudah. It doesn't have to be for this to still be important. And I'm skeptical, as you guys might be able to deduce, of the fact that, of the claim, that Rabbi Yehudah is actually this person. Decades ago, Rabbi Yitzhak Kaduri, and this is something we've already read, modern Israel's most revered sages, as well as the Lubavitch Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, who I actually mentioned earlier, both predicted that Benjamin Netanyahu would be the state of Israel's last prime minister to the Messianic age. A great many, if not most, of the ultra-Orthodox Jews in Israel continue to believe that to be true. And of course, we will see what happens in that regard. Netanyahu obviously is in power at the moment, but also the Jewish Messiah claimant has not shown up yet. Not including, of course, Jesus, because we're talking about from their perspective at the moment. I obviously do believe that the true Jewish Messiah has already shown up. However, the reason we want to focus a little bit from their perspective is because, and I think most people are probably already aware of this, the person they put forward as the claimed Jewish Messiah is going to have a ton of influence. Definitely in Israel, potentially outside of Israel, not only to Jews, but even to Christians and Muslims. And, who knows beyond that, right? This person will end up having tons of influence whenever he is announced, right? Nonetheless, this is not the only thing that has been important and worthy of note recently. Top rabbis looking at signs, Messiah is coming. He's already at the door, according to leading Israeli Torah scholar. This was in August of 2020. August 3rd is when this was published. Excuse me. 1 second again. Excuse me. Man. This is all, a little bit dated at the moment, but nonetheless, let's go in. Israel is about to go to the polls for a third election in less than a year. It's an unprecedented and frankly embarrassing situation, and I do have to agree with that. But several top rabbis say there is a silver lining. Such turmoil must herald the coming of the Messiah. Rabbi Shlomo Amar, the former Sephardic chief rabbi of Israel, told a gathering earlier this month that the list of significant signs over the past year simply cannot be ignored. Israel seems unable to elect a government. U.S. President Trump, the most powerful leader in the world, has, like King Cyrus, endorsed Jewish sovereignty in the Promised Land. I think it's a little bit far for people to compare him to King Cyrus. However, there is certainly some truth to that, right? Getting the embassy moved to Jerusalem was definitely a big deal. And my own opinion, but I've been very clear on this since Trump announced it, I think it's going to be something that they use as a chess piece to say, okay, we recognize it as your capital, but we want to recognize it as Palestine's capital also. Oh, also the old city portion of this we want to be internationalized because it's really religiously and culturally and historically significant. Which has been a plan well established since the 1990s, right? We'll go deeper into that in the next episode because we'll be talking more about temple and stuff like that in the next episode. But the plan to have West Jerusalem as capital of Israel, East Jerusalem as capital of Palestine, and the old city as an internationalized city is very, very old. In fact, it really goes back all the way to, as far as the internationalization part, the beginning portions of Zionism, right? Like the Balfour Declaration and stuff like that time. Not the Balfour Declaration itself, but in that era. But this idea itself is still very old. You can be traced back to Israel's very founding, and the specific plan was put forward in the 1990s. We'll get to a lot of that stuff, like I said, in the next episode. So, a little bit of a teaser for you guys. Nonetheless, the kings of the world, point number 3, the kings of the world come to Jerusalem last month to honor the Jewish people. And that did definitely happen. You probably didn't hear about it. However, good morning, Israel. Jerusalem welcomes the kings of the Gentiles. January 22nd, 2020. We'll get back to this other article in a moment. However, I just want to point out, just want to read this first article, right? Our first paragraph. They are coming to Jerusalem to commemorate the 75 years since the liberation of Auschwitz. And the entire city is up and ready for the visits of King Philip VI of Spain, King Wilhelm Alexander of Holland, King Philip of Belgium, Prince Charles, and heir to the throne of Norway, Prince Haakon Magnus. I don't think I said that right. I don't know how to speak Norwegian, so nonetheless. Other guests included French President Emmanuel Macron, German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, the presidents of Italy, Bulgaria, and Croatia, as well as numerous others. Even Vladimir Putin is scheduled to arrive. Yeah, so that happened, by the way, a year ago. We all just sort of slept on that occurring, but it occurred, and nobody even reported on it except for this Israeli Today people, including myself, by the way. So I apologize for that. But you see the points that I'm trying to make, right? This extreme Messianic fervor that has overtaken Israel. And seemingly signs that would give them good reason. I say seemingly because we as Christians know that this is in fact not good reason. That in fact, Jesus is the Messiah. At best, this is getting us towards the end of time, right? These are things we never dreamed of, exclaimed Rabbi Amar. How can these things be if not as preparation for the coming Messiah? Rabbi Amar went on to recount, a recent encounter with the rabbi who was his spiritual advisor 51 years earlier at yeshiva. That rabbi is still closely connected to Rabbi, and we've already heard this name, Chaim Kanevsky, who attended the same yeshiva and is today considered one of the leading Torah scholars in the ultra-Orthodox world. According to Amar's formal spiritual advisor, he was just about to leave for a trip abroad recently when Rabbi Kanevsky stopped him saying, "You are going abroad? You don't know that the Messiah is standing at the door?" Right? So you notice we're seeing some of the same names showing up, and we're seeing some of the same patterns showing up as far as being Kabbalistic and being associated with Schneerson and being associated with Menachem Schneerson, right? And being associated with, what's that word there? Chabad, right? All this kind of stuff. So there is, even if it's not Rabbi Yehudah, even if it's not, associated with this particular person in any way, shape, or form, still important things to note, I think. Still things that tell us a little bit about where we're at in our world timeline and where Israel is at as a culture. Then there's a quote here from Rabbi Amar. All the great rabbis of this generation are saying that the Messiah is about to reveal himself. All the signs the prophets gave, all the signs predicted in the Gemara, in the Mishnah, in the Midrash, everything is taking place one by one. All we need is to remain strong, for a little bit longer, end quote. He then urged Jews everywhere to commit themselves to Torah observance, in particular keeping the Shabbat. Orthodox Judaism has long taught the Messiah will only come when all Jews are sanctifying the Shabbat. It is notable how closely Rabbi Amar's exhortation echoes that of Yeshua, which is Jesus. Stay dressed for action and keep your lamps burning, and be like men who are waiting for their master to come home from the wedding feast. So that they may open the door to him at once when he comes in and knocks. You also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect, end quote. And of course, that is very true. We see that from Luke 12, 35, and 40. And we could continue down the line here, right? So on and so forth. But I think you guys get the idea, right? There's a lot of talk about a particular rabbi. And even if this talk about this particular rabbi does end up being wrong, there is still a lot of Messianic fervor in the nation of Israel. And it's important, I think, for us to note that kind of thing, especially when you consider what this show has harped on since day one. What are we watching, right? What is the watchdog watching, actually? And it's been since day one, this plan that Shimon Peres, the president of Israel, pitched to Pope Francis, the current pontiff of Rome, for a United Nations of Religions that Pope Francis himself would head. And Shimon Peres was the same president who not only set up in the 1990s diplomatic relations with the Pope, but also had secret meetings with the Pope that at least one reputable news source in Israel, the largest radio in Israel, namely the Times of Israel, has actually reported as being the Vatican, not the Vatican, the Jerusalem separation plan that I just told you guys about, right? With the Vatican being the ones who actually own the old city, right? Which, of course, would make sense if they would own it and it be internationalized, if maybe that was, I don't know, the setting place or capital or whatever you'd want to call it for a United Nations of Religions. And by the way, I know that all sounds kind of crazy. The thing is, all of it is mainstream. All of it has been reported in mainstream Israeli newspapers. It only sounds crazy to you because you're an American. Jewish people are already aware of this in Israel. It's just kind of something that, for the most part, I think a lot of people don't care about because they probably think it to be a nothing burger. Let me go ahead and real quick before we get out of here, look at what we have in the comment section. Slam asks, did you see the article in Mishpaka, Jewish Family Weekly called Perfect Harmony, dated May 2020? I'm researching him now. I don't think I actually have. If you could, please send that to me, actually. I'm very interested. But no, that's actually the first I've heard of that. Seems he is known for knowing the Torah by heart. Interesting. Hate Love Nothing says, is Palestine in danger? I mean, Palestine doesn't actually exist, just as a matter of fact at the moment, right? There's no current state called Palestine. If you mean the Palestinian people, I personally think that they're closer to getting a state than they've ever been. But that's just my own opinion. Slam says that does look interestingly weird, right? It does, right? There's interesting things here, even though there's a lot of things for us to note as little asterisks. There is still some interesting core here. So let's see. So failed prophecy. Yes, indeed. It failed prophecy. It's interesting that they would reference Gog and Magog, which is in Revelation of the New Testament. Very true. Very true. Of course, it is, I think, originally referenced in Ezekiel. But it is interesting, I think, how similar the New Testament's prediction of the end and the Jews' current understanding of when their Messiah is going to show up, how similar they are. It leads me to believe that the person who is the Antichrist will absolutely be accepted as the Jewish Messiah. I think he'll probably be accepted as the Islamic Mahdi as well as a couple other things. But nonetheless, she says she needs a wrench. Oh, yeah, this is a new channel, obviously. Duh. Yeah, let me go ahead and do that just a moment. All right, you should have a wrench now. And the word, by the way, was Gemara, is what they had said there. I think at least. Let me go ahead and look at that one more time. This article. Yeah, Gemara, Gemara. Gematria, I believe, is actually like a mathematics thing, right? Kind of like a numerology sort of deal. I'm not super familiar with it though. Nonetheless, and I appreciate you sending that article to me, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and read that tonight. I appreciate all you guys being here for the first episode of the Watchdog that was actually aired on its own separate channel. Obviously, we're going to have to do the whole rebuild thing again, so I appreciate any of you guys being here and helping us do that. Please do consider liking and sharing this video and subscribing if you have not done so. Get this out to all your different social media accounts because, of course, this is an important message in my view, at least. And if it's an important message in your view, what good is a message without an audience to hear it? Also, want to remind you guys that I am going to be posting debates on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They're all debates that are from the past, but they were done on modern day debate and they were political in nature. So I just want to get them posted on here since this is sort of a more politically oriented channel, although obviously not so much, right? It's politically oriented in that it's about news and that I'm giving a lot of my political opinions, but obviously very, very influenced by my faith, as you guys could see by this own, episode itself. Nonetheless, want to remind you guys of that. Also want to remind you that this will be a morning show we're doing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And in case you are concerned, no, this will not come into conflict with my frequent streaming on the other channel. I will just more than likely be doing unapologetics either at nights or in afternoons rather than doing them in mornings. So we'll make sure to actually keep both channels up and running. Also, if you would like to support me in this kind of content, I do have a Patreon. It's the exact same Patreon as the Apologetics Patreon because I figure that there's just no necessity to split them up. So if you're already actually giving, then there's no need to do anything like that. But nonetheless, if you guys are interested in helping me turn this into a career, namely this whole podcasting thing, being a full-time academic, as I like to call it, doing news, doing politics, doing history, doing apologetics, writing books, all that kind of stuff. It starts here. And so if you do want to help with that, I did just throw that in the live chat below. Links will be in the description once I get all that set up. And also links to all of my different social media accounts where you can follow me. Parler, Gab, Twitter, Minds, whatever, right? If you use that sort of thing, you can follow me on those sorts of places. And before I go, I do have a question for you. In the face of Armageddon, will you compromise?